Hey guys, Ryan here from the Hustle and Grind podcast. Today we have a great guest on, Joël Richer, owner of Boule et Bière, Bubbles and Beers. It is a mobile bar company. Joël is part of this really great, exciting group of young entrepreneurs in London who are locked in and driving a lot of these really cool events such as HRZN FEST, Oktoberfest, Fail Fast. We talked to Joël about a lot of things with entrepreneurship related to collaboration, vertical integration, taking that jump from your regular 9-to-5 job into the entrepreneurial mindset and what that entails. There's so much that we get into with Joël. A lot of great information, a lot of great insights. We're really excited to bring you this episode. Let's go.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. Joël Richer on the pod today.
Yes, sir.
Very pumped to have you on.
Ryan.
Well done. Thank you. That's my fake French. Yeah. We have a real French guy here that's going to put me in my place for sure. But super pumped to have you on, man. You've been definitely on our radar, my radar, because I see you popping up all over the place on socials. And I want to get into this with you because there is this group of you, I'll call you young because you're younger than me, but young, locked in entrepreneurs. Yep. And I just keep seeing you guys everywhere. You're doing these events, HRZN Fest, Oktoberfest, what's the other one? Fail Fast.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep.
And it looks fucking so good. And it's so inspiring. And I'm like, these guys are in London and I'm pumped, man, because we love London. This is a London, based podcast. And it's so cool to see you guys just kind of locked in and driving things forward. So can we start there?
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about this kind of group of you, of these entrepreneurs, these like just kick-ass kind of like visionaries that you're just making shit happen.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you want to know? Kind of how we kind of assembled?
Yeah, start there. Yeah. I'd love to know that.
Yeah, I think so. In order to kind of explain that, need to give a little bit of background on kind of how I got into entrepreneurship,
right?
Because I wouldn't have known these guys otherwise. So I've been in the corporate world for a long time, and I kind of followed the traditional route. Went to school, got my master's degree, got the job, and I got to kind of a point. It was really around COVID, where I was like, you know what, I'm satisfied, but not fully satisfied. Like I feel like I can give so much more, and I feel like I can go out there and kind of test myself. And I've always been kind of like a natural sales guy, and been able to kind of, I've never been able to flex that muscle. So that got me kind of inspired to start something of my own, which is where the mobile bar business kind of came up. And through kind of the evolution of us starting that, and having to shake hands with breweries and distilleries and marketing companies, I started to meet these young cats that were starting their own businesses, and that I really resonated with, and we were kind of all very much in the same mindset, but then also the same trajectory. Like we were kind of all startups, right? And we quickly realized that, hey, there's power in numbers here, and if we put our brains together and we stay focused, we can achieve some pretty cool things, and things that add value to London. So that was kind of really what inspired us. Like one of our business models is supporting local, and as part of that, you want to bring in local businesses to make things happen. So that's kind of the genesis of getting together with Forest Brewery, working with PM Creative Studios, working with some of the young DJs like DJ Josie and Fresh Seas that are also kind of doing their own thing in their own space. Right?
Nice.
So
yeah.
So you found, good on you, number one, to recognize that there's power in numbers, like you said, right, and able to kind of connect with like-minded folks who also could recognize that some help and some support and some teamwork can kind of put some extra wind behind your sails, but completely kind of unique businesses in their own right. How did you how did you end up getting to the point now where, these festivals are part of the equation, and now you're kind of working together to grow something? Because like HRZN Fest, for example, Oktoberfest, like we're not talking like a couple hundred people here.
No. Yeah. I think it's recognizing what everybody brings to the table, and then being able to kind of parse that out and identify, hey, with this skill set, like what's everybody's superpower, basically. With this skill set, what can we do? And we obviously in the mobile bar business had started getting used to running events, doing bigger weddings and things like that. And really, what was the kickoff point was we played the role of vendors at a lot of these festivals and events, and we really felt like it left a lot to be desired. Like we would look out and we would be disenfranchised with something that happened as a vendor, or we'd be like, "Fuck, we can do this better." Right? Like there was just some stuff happening that we felt like, hey, we can probably give this a shot and do something pretty special with these superpowers that we have.
Eliminate the bullshit that we recognize
Love
that is
that.
kind of holding potential back, essentially.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we recognized is competition breeds a better experience for the consumer, right? So what ended up happening in London, and this isn't to shit on any of the event organizers that are doing their thing, because they for a long time had this landscape they were working with, and they were doing in their own right, niche things, unique things, but it felt like things had stagnated for a bit.
I agree.
There was a couple of players, and you would go to one festival and it felt identical to the next one,
even though it's a completely different festival.
Man.
Right. So the feel, the experience, I think what was good in their own way, but then we just felt like, hey, we can infuse something different with HRZN FEST, especially because it hadn't been done before in that venue, and that theme, which is kind of like a VIP beach club vibe, right? So nobody in London had really done that with bottle service outdoors and in the open air, right? So we really felt like that was going to pull in a key demographic, and it did. It worked really well. And then Oktoberfest, with our kind of marketing power that we put behind it, and just a different go-to-market strategy, we felt like, obviously everybody knows Oktoberfest, but we felt like we could do it different. So that was really our call, and it ended up being our calling card, and it still kind of is our calling card on the event side, is if you come to a event that we're associated with, it's going to be an experience, right? Like you're going to feel immersed in whatever we're doing, and it's just an overall good time. But it took all those people together putting in that effort, right? And really honing in on their superpower.
Yeah, it was because I remember seeing that, and it was at HRZN FEST was at Wonderland Gardens. We were talking about this, and then Oktoberfest was too. And I remember thinking, that's cool. Like they're really innovative with the space that typically was just kind of sitting there and no one was doing anything with.
Occasional wedding or
that.
I think what was really important for us is it was super curated. So a lot of festivals across Ontario, or just in general, one of the mistakes they make is trying to make money off the vendors. So what they do is they'll bring in fucking 100 vendors and they get vendor fees, right? And they make money off the vendors, right? But what that leads to is a bunch of repeat vendors. It's maybe stuff that doesn't really fit the theme as well, right?
just taking you in because they're cashing a check.
Oh, I
Exactly,
see.
right? So what we did with both HRZN and Oktoberfest, like I think at HRZN FEST we had like 4 vendors, and at Oktoberfest we only had 2 vendors, and that was deliberate, right? Like we're like, we don't want to take away from the experience, right? If you're coming here, the vendor has to fit. It has to feel like it's curated. Right?
Yeah.
You want to control.
That's really interesting.
Vibe, right?
Exactly. And even like from a food perspective, we were really, really picky with who we were bringing in. We wanted the quality to be there. We also wanted it to be like fully on theme. So like we did something very different, right? For the VIP area of both Oktoberfest and HRZN FEST. There was like food platters brought up specifically for the VIP tables, and that was curated by for Oktoberfest. It was Holy Diver that did it. They did a phenomenal job.
Oh, nice.
I got to give them a shout out.
Yeah.
And then for HRZN FEST, we had Waldo's Bistro that did the catering for the VIP tables exclusively. So again, that experience that our London consumers haven't really experienced. Right?
Yeah. Love that.
So much to dive into there.
Yeah,
So
there is. And then, sorry, Scotty.
No, you're
then,
good.
Then Fail Fast, you guys did. We were just talking about this. You did it at Smash Pickleball. The one of them. Anyways, Can you talk about Fail Fast though? Because that's where I really kind of got to know this vibe you guys are creating. This kind of like ecosystem of community supporting entrepreneurs. And and I really wanted to go to one. I just couldn't because I had family commitments stuff. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that actually, I would say, was a spinoff of the podcast. Take a step back, kind of explain that. So, we ended up having this idea of talking about the events industry in a podcast format. The original idea was maybe do a mobile bar and really niche it down. Then I started working with DJ Fresh Seas, who's a really well-known local DJ here, and we're like, okay, well, let's expand it out a little bit to the event industry as a whole, but let's laser focus on kind of the underbelly of the industry, where you see all the nice shiny stuff on Instagram, but you don't see kind of the challenges of being a vendor and all this other stuff. And let's talk about that, so that potentially it adds value for others, and then in whoever's listening that's local gets to know this local business. So create a platform for them as well.
Nice.
So we started, season 1 that way, and I got to know Paul, who worked with us on a videography
So Paul
side.
of PM Creative Studios.
You got it. Yeah. So PM Creative Studios kind of started working with us on that, doing the production and then becoming a host. And then through the kind of late night meetings that we would have, kind of hashing all this stuff out, we're like, hey, what would be great if we created a networking event that doesn't suck?
Thank you.
Yeah. So we had all been as like young entrepreneurs, we've gone to these networking events, and we really felt like, man, like, again, can we elevate this experience for the attendees? And, not have it be, I think there's a time and a place for like realtors and brokers and bankers to all get together.
Yeah, sure.
But we were more of like a creative niche, right? So we're like, can we create a networking group that can cater to those people in that space as well? But then if you came and you were a videographer or a DJ or someone in the events industry or an artist or whatever, a creative of some sort, you also got value out of that experience. So we created a formula of basically like your first hour was going to be your traditional mix and mingle. Your second hour, you were going to learn something. So either a mastermind or like a panel discussion or whatever. And then the third hour is going to be something fun.
Nice.
So that's when we did that smash, we opened up the courts to everybody.
Right.
So if you want to play pickleball, you could.
Oh, cool. So very interactive. You're not just standing around passing out business cards. You're
way better.
Yeah. Jumping in and
and then like the second one, we worked with Chris Evans, and we did a laser quest.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
nice.
So,
okay, cool.
We did the traditional kind of panel, and we called it artists versus entrepreneurs. So then we had some panel discussion there, and then the last hour we brought everybody through, and they didn't know through the maze and laser quest, and it's all like it's still vintage. It's like the lights work, the sound works, and everything. So we brought people in like waves through the wave, and then on the other side there's an event venue that Chris has now, and we had a DJ playing music. And
so like downtown Carling, like that's
pretty sweet.
So that Laser Quest setup is still
it's an event space now.
I didn't
really know
I thought she was Dust.
So shout out to them.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
Chris Evans that owns 7 Social kind of runs the events there.
Okay.
So
that's good.
It's kind of like not super well known. It's kind of like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
not anymore.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah, you can rent it out, and there's some really cool things that you can do in that space. So have you guys been to the Laser Quest?
Like I was there with my kids a long time ago, and
your kids aren't that old.
Well, my older
like Laser Quest, like that's been there since like
I guess
it's got to be at least maybe even
I probably
80s.
went there myself for corporate stuff.
I remember being there as a kid, man.
Yeah.
Like 30 plus.
There you go. So it has been around for a while, and then Chris just kind of took it over, and that's really cool though to know that you're kind of reimagining or reinventing a space that's been there forever, and you're giving it new life, I guess is what it seems.
Yeah, and it's a good tie into like the original question about like this group of young entrepreneurs, because he's also doing his own thing, and he's got like his own kind of creative hub that he's created. So he's also got a spot in Port Stanley that does something very similar.
Oh, nice.
So he's got his, and it's more of the, I would say like heavy creatives, like artists, photographers, videographers, I wouldn't call myself a creative, right? I would call myself more of like a core like entrepreneur business guy. Yeah. I've got some creative ideas from time to time, but
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not weird.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, did I say that? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, but going back to Laser Quest, the airlock where you put the gear on.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So we turned that into a speakeasy bar. So so you kind of went down, and then if you found the airlock, you got like a free like cocktail that we curated for the event. So
that's very cool.
So again, it's
so
like
you weren't announcing it. It was just left. Now, what percentage of people found it?
A good percentage of people that stayed. Like some people, it was on a Thursday night, so some people bail like at right after the conversations. But everybody that stuck around for all intents and purposes.
And then word gets out, and it's like you got to come check this out.
And then even when we did the one at Paul's studio at PM Creative Studio, we created something called the Red Room, which was like just like a random like small room about this size, and we lit it up in red. And we had the guy that owns Simply Syrups. He ran a speakeasy bar in there, but you had to find it. We didn't tell anybody about it. So we kind of had an opening where people could trickle over. But what happens is the minute somebody gets their first cocktail, they'll be like, well, where the fuck did you get that? Right?
Yeah.
They're only cracking cans over here.
Totally.
Man, I love that.
And then people started filtering and discovering it and finding it.
Yeah, but now it's memorable, right? And I think that's, again, there's still more to the story, but recognizing that something just wasn't as good as it could be, finding a group of people to kind of buy into this vision of more, and then making that experience unique and memorable, right? And good on you for that.
And I mean, you're a marketing guy, so like for me, almost all of my businesses, we're just experiential marketing. Right? That's really what it is, right? When you boil it down to what we do, like even my mobile bar business, anybody can pour a cocktail, right? Like it's really not about the drinks. And sometimes it is, right? Like sometimes you make a really fancy drink and like that's exactly what the client wants and that's why they're hiring you. But for the most part, it's kind of the whole package together, right? It's the cool bar, it's the bar in a horse trailer, it's the speakeasy bar, and then the nice cocktail, and then the great service that you're getting with it, and then the atmosphere that you're creating, say with something like a festival, right? So, so it's packaging it together and creating an experience for the client. So it's really a marketing exercise.
Yeah, for sure it is. Right? Yeah, I want to jump back a bit, Joel, if you don't mind, because I know a lot of our listeners, they're probably doing the corporate grind, they're at a job, whatever, and they're thinking about entrepreneurship or starting their own business. They're thinking this would be great. How, because you are going down this path, you've gone down this path, stepping into the entrepreneurship kind of world from working at a job. When did that decision happen? How did you get there? What was your mindset? And I don't know, some thoughts to share with people on that, because I did that a while ago, and sounds like you've done it more recently, and I'm just really curious about that.
Yeah, what I would say is it's incredibly difficult to both commit to doing it, because you're going to sacrifice something in the process, right? So when you first get started, no matter what you hear on social media, it's not really wise, especially if you've got a steady income, or you've got, kids or whatever, and you've got this lifestyle that you need to maintain. It's not super wise to just make the jump because you've got a good idea.
No, like we were saying, Gary Vee just says, quit your job and become an entrepreneur.
And if I was, 22 and I didn't have any kids and I was single and I was working, making 40 grand a year, sure, I'd do that, right? For sure. I've got no strings attached, and I'm all to those people that can do that, right?
Sure.
But again, I don't think that's wise. I think you have to prove your concept, and you have to, you have to grind, and, work on weekends, work in the evenings while maintaining, that job. Right. So I would say that I'm still kind of in that struggle of figuring out where things are going to land. So I'm not the best person to give advice because I'm in the thick of it.
Sure. Meaning you're still have the gig, also an entrepreneur, haven't been able to
make the jump.
Yet.
I think the biggest thing is, the guys that have done it, they'll always say, you got to just make the jump. You got to make the cut. And a part of me is like, well, that's kind of survival bias.
Yeah.
You survived and you thrived.
Right.
Doesn't mean that everybody else will, right?
Very good point.
So
very good point.
Then that's where I think it's dangerous to, hear these big voices on social media saying, hey, do this thing. It might work out and you might be the next Gary Vee, but they also are coming from a perspective where they did it and they won, right? And you know what? Like, I'd love to see the stats on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because not everybody wins.
No.
I mean, that life isn't fair.
What
right?
are the we know as business owners that what is it? 95% of businesses fail, right? Or whatever the stat is, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to see the stat of people that were making, I would say, over $75,000 a year in their corporate job have made the jump to entrepreneurship. What is the failure rate and what is the success rate?
Yeah.
That's a true number you should be looking at when you're kind of evaluating what you're doing.
So,
right?
And you know, I'm a big Gary Vee fan, and I'm gonna stick up for him a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's times where he's on a call with somebody, and they have the side hustle, and he's asking them about numbers and sales and revenue, and these guys are literally now, because they're still working the gig, are saying no to growing their business. Right? They've got like the one that comes to mind is like the garage clean out thing.
Yeah.
Right. And this guy, he's doing like 8 or 10 a week, but it's on the weekends.
8 or 10,000.
No, 8 or 10 like clean outs.
Oh, 8 or 10 clean outs a week.
Right. And he's asking them, well, how much is he making at his gig?
Okay.
And he's doing the math. And it's like, if you did that full time and now you're doing 30 of those a week,
right?
Like you just replaced your income and some, right? Not to mention that, well, he's cleaning out garages. This guy's like finding hidden gems, which is Gary's other guilty pleasure, which is like selling collectibles and shit, right?
Yeah.
So when the guy says to him, you know, that he's finding these collectibles and able to sell them, that's when he loses his shit. He's like, quit your fucking job. Quit your job. So that's but at the same time, you're right. Like
it's hard to,
and I've been
that jump.
Yeah.
I've been there. Some of us get forced out. Maybe, you know, something happens, you're you know, the gig doesn't work out, company gets acquired, and now you're on the outside looking in, and maybe that's the time to roll up your sleeves.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Yep.
So if you looked at, for instance, my mobile bar business, and you looked at, and Gary Vee was interviewing me, and he's like, okay, talk to me about your last 2 months, and he's talking to me in July and August. He'd be like, you're fucking insane. Quit right now.
Right.
Because you're making so, but I'm like, there's also off season in my
There's also September.
Right.
There's also January and February.
So the point I'm making is, this guy that's doing garage cleanouts, has he gone through a full business cycle? Has he gone through a couple full business cycles?
Good point.
Right? Because you could be like, oh my God, things are hot right now. And like, you're just in garage cleanout season. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
True.
Right.
That's a good point.
So we're looking at,
fuck Gary.
Yeah.
Well, again, this is the danger of sound bites.
It
right?
is.
Because you're getting this little tiny snippet of reality, really. And then, you know, you've got to kind of ask all the right questions before making a big decision.
Yeah.
Like that.
So for you in your journey, what is it that will allow you at some point? Is it a revenue model, a revenue number? Is there a plan? Do you have a target that you're working towards?
Good question, man.
Before? Because listen, and before you answer that, like a good buddy of mine who recently got a little shout out. I won't name names right now, but got packaged out, and he'd been dying. Like it was to him, it was a great day, right? He's like,
right,
yes, right,
because for him
wasn't liking the gig, wanted to move on, relying on a significant income that is supporting his family and lifestyle, and then got the golden parachute, which is like winning the lottery in his sense, right? Which is great, but for you, like, do you know where it is, when it is, and will you be able to pull the trigger at that moment?
Yeah, for sure. Like there's definitely a number in my mind, and it's an income replacement thing. It's can I pay the mortgage? Can I pay like essentially the base costs with my wife's salary to be able to kind of make the move and not put my family in peril?
Yeah.
Right. You know, we've built this, and like I'm not super materialistic at the end of the day. Like I don't care, but the reality is that we've created a standard of living that you know, we've grown accustomed to. So I think like for me that would be the jump off point to say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm enjoying it. I can see that this business cycle is repeatable. I can see that it's scalable, and now I've got enough to cover the bills baseline. Now would be time to consider making the jump. I want to feel confident that I would under those circumstances. You know, in a startup, and you know, I'm involved in a few different businesses. In the startup phase, what you're doing is you're not paying yourself, right? And you guys know this. Like the reality is any income that you're generating, you're likely, if you want it to be successful, you're likely spending it back into the 100%. Business, right? So that's really the phase of business that we're in right now. Like we know we've got something good. We know we've created a strong ecosystem. We know we've got the right group, and we know that we need to reinvest in that machine in order for it to be at a point where if anybody in that group wants to make the jump or take a step back and have someone else take a step up, we've created that framework. So I think we're still in that right now.
Now, I guess based on that, you mentioned scale, right? Because that's another part of the equation.
Yep.
Reinvesting back into the business to kind of keep things going. Is there a question of whether it's you or one of your partners or somebody else in your group where it's like, okay, well, it makes sense for us to now pay him or her to put gas on this fire, because chances are you're not the only one who's, managing multiple pieces.
For sure. And I think, again, it depends on the superpower that's needed at the time of that decision. So, for instance, I'm involved in a brewery, Forest Brewery. And if we were to say get a physical space, which is the next logical step for that business, probably wouldn't be me that makes the jump. And for the simple reason of I have a business partner that's involved in the business that's way more operationally minded than I am.
Better suited for that.
He comes from mergers and acquisitions. He comes from procurement. He knows how to crunch the numbers. He knows how to kind of look at an operation and make sure that it stays profitable. Not to say that I can't do those things. It's to say that he's got a better skill set in those things. So my best skill set is business development, sales, relationship building, like all those different things. So if the next logical step was in that realm, well, then maybe it's me.
Right.
So I think it's, we stay nimble in that way and understanding that it's not about the person, it's about the business. What's the best thing for the business? And we've had to make really hard decisions even around people and things in our business, because everything flows through. Is this the right decision for the business? Right. It's not like we put our egos aside. And there's some big egos in the room, right? I mean, you've met my business partner, Miles, right? Like where, there's
a lot of alphas.
Yeah. There's a lot of, there's a lot of, personalities. There's a lot of different skill sets. There's a lot of, different voices in the room, and you have to be, you have to have generous listening and making sure everybody feels heard. You also have to be open to constructive criticism as business partners, which is very difficult. We're all business owners in our own right. We're all high performers in our own right. So when you've got someone sitting you down that you don't report to or anything, basically saying, hey, you got to check yourself here, right? You got to be open to that.
And I use this in my own business, and I've grown, to, learning the hard way, really. And applying this kind of service leadership philosophy where, these people don't work for me, I work for them. And I'm constantly to my people saying, what do you need from me today? Like, what do you need? It's not like do this, do that. I've learned that doesn't work, and there's a service leadership philosophy. Right? Not long term. No, exactly. So, and really it's easy to say, but I wouldn't expect my people to do something that I couldn't do,
or wouldn't do
really. I mean, there's a lot of people that are smart. Most people are smarter than me in my business. They can do a lot more than I can. So I really am working. I'm like, what do you need me to do? Like do you need a coffee today? I could do that to make sure,
So what's your superpower then?
My superpower, I think, is that, oh man, it's a good question. Fuck, now I'm on the spot. Probably listening. I'm a good listener. I am able to park my ego and just
you're a humble
listen.
guy. Humility's a factor, which would be the case for a bunch of alphas to get along and move in a forward direction.
I don't mind, and I've got some other businesses where my business partners are the alpha, and I don't mind. I'm okay with that. I'm fine, because I'll listen, and through listening and really observing more, I'll gain those little pieces, those little nuggets of information that you may not acknowledge, you may not see if you're just talking all the
just
time.
waiting for your turn to
Yeah.
talk while you're not
Yeah.
actually taking in what.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
You're listening to respond versus listening to understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think so. But
Well, and that's
I don't know.
that's a big takeaway too. Like those are two very nuanced pieces there, right? Listening to respond versus listening to understand.
100%. Right. And I think that's what generous listening is listening to understand.
generous listening.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Versus,
Yeah.
versus just wanting to get whatever your piece is out. Right.
Yeah.
So what's your superpower?
Scotty.
Similar in a sense to Ryan, but mine is curiosity, right? Like
I would agree with that.
I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah.
I think I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I think there's lessons to be learned everywhere, every day, regardless of who you are, how much money you have, where you came from. So just being curious and willing to know that. And this is something I'm working on. I used to be much more definitive in my mindset in certain ways, where, don't be so like, and I think I might have mentioned this on a previous pod before, but don't be so sure of something that it blocks you from something that might actually be better, right? Like that's stopping you from a new path that you didn't know existed, like the speakeasy in your thing, right? Like don't be just on the mission to get to where you're going and you walk by a beautiful experience that's sitting right in plain sight.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's kind of I just want to be curious. I want to learn and humble enough to know that, like, okay, I know some shit. I'm not saying like I'm not a competent dude, but there are people out there who are much smarter than I am.
Yeah.
And guess what? They've got different experiences. Like that's literally life, right? Like our reality has been shaped by our world and the experiences we've had since childhood and since the weekend, right? So to think that like you're better or know more than someone else, like they have a different experience, man. Right? So I think that's a big piece.
Yeah.
And they have a different superpower, right?
Yeah.
100%,
And,
yes.
and it's understanding that like there's not a superpower that's better than another.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love that.
So like,
I love that.
like for me, I would say, and this kind of full circle to your
Yeah.
original
What's your
question of, like,
superpower, Joel?
I
I'll
think-
put you on the spot now.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we did talk about operations, I think earlier we were talking about how you're able, and actually this is one of the questions I do have. So not to jump in on the question I just asked you, but I've heard you, the good thing about you is that there is some content out there. You guys have done a podcast, you're out there. I was kind of going through and absorbing content from you. And a thorough line that I kept seeing you talk about is this vision. And, having a vision, but then having that vision to allow others to share in that vision. So, and I know we were talking about this earlier, before we got on mic, the fact that you're able to have that vision, but you kind of bring that down to a level that people can, really share in that vision. Can you talk about, like, would you think that would be one of your superpowers?
For sure. Like, I think if I look back at what was I really successful at, and what helps me bring this group together, I think it's a couple of things, but one is I'm just a driver. Like I'm a dog on a bone, right? So so holding people accountable when kind of they say, hey, and even if it was like coming out of this conversation, if you're like, hey, I really, I feel inspired to like start this thing. If I didn't hear anything about it in a week, I'd be texting you being like, so how's that thing going? Right?
Love it. So holding people accountable
to their own ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So not like, hey, I told you to do this. Where are you at with it? It's, hey, you told me you wanted to do this.
Where are you at?
So why are you doing it
with it? Right.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I do love that.
So it's leading through inspiring others to get on board with like your vision. So ultimately, like when I look big picture at how I want the businesses to progress, you can't just go about telling people what to do. Like that just would never work, right? So you have to be consistent with your approach of having touch points with people, of building those relationships, so that when you do have those conversations that are about them getting more engaged, more involved, it's coming from a good place, but you're still driving that truck, right? And I can be and any business in the early days needs a driver, right? You need someone that's like, hey, either you're getting on the train or getting run over by it, right? So in a way, you need someone that's like, hey, let's go. We're going here, jump on board. But you need that conductor to also kind of be like grabbing that hand and pulling them on board, and then being like, okay, now you're on the train. Let's go. Right?
That's a great analogy.
So
I love that.
it's the first time I used that analogy.
Yeah, no, that's good, man.
Just pulled it out of my hat.
I like it.
Yeah, that's really
and I like the visualization.
Yeah,
let's go.
for sure. Yeah.
Give me your hand.
Yeah, we're moving fast. Are you ready?
Like, grab a hold.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, and I want to go back.
I don't know if we've ever answered the original goddamn question.
What is superpower is?
No, from like the very start of the pod. Like we're 30 some odd minutes in.
Oh fuck! I don't. What was this? What was the first question?
How did you assemble the team?
Well, I don't know.
We kind of did.
We kind of got into it.
we weaved around.
Thanks, Scotty. Yeah. What I want to ask, why Mobile Bar? Like, let's talk about that a little. And what is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually my biggest challenge in the industry, is letting people know we exist.
Yeah. So, talk a little bit about that, because that is your core business now.
Yeah, I would say that was the core business that got me involved in entrepreneurship. So again, it happened during COVID, and it kind of came out of two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So one, we love to host parties, like get-togethers, things like that. And whenever it was a bigger get-together, I really care about my guest experience, right? Like how are my guests doing? Do they have a drink? Do they have everything they need? And I was like, man, I wish I could just like hire like a bar service. And I was having a hard time finding like someone that could do it, and that like kind of met my needs. So that was kind of one piece. And then I started noticing on social media these like mobile bar pop-ups. So like trailers that have been converted to bars, or like these cool trucks with taps on them and stuff like that. And then it piqued my interest. I was like, I wonder if there's anybody in London that's doing that kind of thing. So did a little bit of market research, and what I found was there was 2 or 3 players that were kind of doing it very casually. And then my business brain clicked in, and I'm like, holy smokes, there's a real opportunity here to consolidate a market, and you don't get that opportunity very often, right? So there's this notion, you guys are probably familiar with it in business, where you have like a red ocean market and you have a blue ocean market.
Yes, right? I talked about that on one of our episodes. Yeah, talk about that, please.
Yeah, so like red ocean would be something like, what is there a ton of? Pharmacy, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So if I was I'm gonna open a pharmacy, right? Well, there's a pharmacy on every corner, right? So that's red ocean, and that like, how are you gonna differentiate yourself? Like, how are you gonna pull your clients in? You know, what are you gonna sell that's gonna be a difference maker? How are you gonna do your market? There's a lot that you'd have to think of to kind of make yourself stand out from the rest, because there's so much competition, right?
Lots of blood in the water. I guess,
blood in the water. That's exactly where red ocean comes from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. There's Scotty. There you go. Good job, buddy.
So blue ocean is, hey, you're that shark, and you're just able to snap everything up, right? Because there's really no other sharks around, and you're just getting all the prey in front of you, right? And that's a very kind of weird way to put it, but
no, I like that.
But essentially, that's kind of what I noticed from a business perspective is, hey, high margin business, because when you're dealing with weddings and events, your cost base, once you've bought your equipment, is relatively low. And then really it's just labor for the event itself. It's like your ingredients and stuff is not super cost prohibitive. And in this industry, the way that it works most of the time is the client's actually paying for the alcohol, they're paying for the mix, and what you're paying for with my service is the truck or the trailer,
that experience,
or the bar, and then the bartender, and then the experience of them, crafting the cocktail for you, right?
Yeah.
So kind of looked at this and I said, okay, let's give it a go. And at first it was myself, my wife, and my business partner, Roberto, who's also an entrepreneur. He's a barber by trade.
Oh, right on.
And we went to high school together.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. You go to your barber and you sit in the chair and you're constantly shooting the shit about, random stuff, including business. So for like 5 years, I'd be sitting in the barber chair and I'd be like, we got to do business together. Because like I'd see this guy start cutting hair at like 7 a.m. and cutting hair until like midnight.
Oh my God.
Like day in, day out. I'm like, this guy hustles, right? And like, I don't care what your skill set is. If you grind, and like I'm giving your podcast some props right now.
Appreciate that. Natural, yeah.
If you hustle, if you grind, man, that's a big X factor, right? So I just knew that like, hey, Roberto works super hard.
Yeah.
And with my skill set, we put that together. His superpower is that like engine that never gives up,
Oh,
right?
man.
And then you put those two superpowers together, and I feel like we could do something special. So we started it, and like we started with 2 whiskey barrels and a wood top like this. That's it.
Really?
That's it. So we went to market with it. We got our first wedding with 4 whiskey barrels together in like an L shape, and then we're like, okay, we can do this. That kind of gave us our confidence.
That was kind of
boost.
your beta test, I guess. Is that what you call it? Or
yeah, and we just got lucky, right?
Yeah.
It was one of Roberto's buddies who's like, man, I'm doing my backyard wedding and we haven't thought about the bar. Can you bail me out?
Nice.
I know you're starting this thing with
Well,
Joel.
as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
yes, I can.
Yeah. He's like, I know you're starting this thing with Joel, right? I saw a post on social media and we're like, yeah, for sure we'll bail you out, right? So
you're kind of jumping in with both feet, not really. I mean, knowing you had a plan, but you're still like, was that kind of nerve-wracking to be like, is this going to work? Or what's the worst that can happen? Like, what's your mindset there?
Yeah, it was more of a what's the worst that can happen, right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty limited investments in terms of overhead. And I guess the other element I should talk about why I jumped in and why I was interested is there was a period of time, kind of the 2 years leading up to that decision, where I was actually interested in potentially purchasing like a commercial property that had a bar in it. But as I started doing kind of the math, failure rate of bars and restaurants is super high. You're dealing with a ton of overhead, and your risk of failure is like even higher than other kind of entrepreneurial ventures. So I said, okay, the mobile bar piece, you don't have all that overhead. All you really have is your equipment. And then it's really you're betting on yourself to do the proper marketing and advertising and then executing on what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Which, I had a lot of confidence that we'd be able to do that. So then we went to market and we just started doing some like really interesting things. Like in order to get into like vendor markets, I started selling fire pokers that had like craft beer handles.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. But the reason I did that was to get me into market so then I could bring a kegerator that was wrapped with my logo on it. And then people would be like, oh, well, like, what's that? And then I could talk about the business.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's cool.
That
so
is
we
cool.
ended up like selling some stuff.
Yeah.
And in year 1, the fire pokers was my number 1 income
There you go.
generator. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, we really hardly sell any now.
Yeah.
The last time I sold some was at Oktoberfest because
Yeah.
I was like, I still have a bunch of these fire pokers. Right?
Yeah, okay. Let's get rid of these.
Get rid of these
Wife's been bugging it. Can you clean this shit up?
Yeah.
Sure, babe.
That's funny.
So then I would say year 2 is when things kicked into high gear where we proved the concept and we're like, okay, people are interested in this once they know it exists. We positioned ourselves in the market as not the cheapest, not even like middle ground. We're like, hey, if you want that elevated experience, you got to come to us, right?
Nice.
And here's kind of why.
Yeah.
So we let kind of the marketing tell the story. We let our relationships tell the story. And then it kind of started to grow from there. And then I had an opportunity to purchase one of my competitors' equipment. It was called the Wobbly Wheel. You might actually know the guy, Greg Francis. He's a videographer. He does the videography for the London Lightning.
Yeah. I like not personally, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So Greg had this. He also kind of had the idea of, hey, listen, I do videography and stuff. So like, maybe I can package together like a bar package plus the videography, photography service that I provide, and then his personal situation was just like, hey, it got to be too much. I couldn't like really manage this effectively.
Yeah.
So he wanted to offload the trailer. He had a deal in place for someone that was going to buy it to be like a coffee truck, a coffee trailer. And I basically, I remember like
not happening.
Well, I remember wrangling that deal away.
It's mine.
Wrangling it away.
Well, what sold it is I said, listen, I'm like, the Wobbly Wheel is such a fantastic name. I'm like, I'm going to keep that name alive. So I'm like, when you're out there and we're in the same industry and you're going to weddings with me and stuff, you're going to see the thing you built still there being used in the way you wanted it to be used.
Oh, wow.
Sold.
Yeah.
So
Nicely done.
So
well done.
So I think that's how I kind of convinced him to kind of sell it to me versus the guy who's interested in turning it into a coffee trailer. So there was that. And then there was 2 other players. There was another player in Petrolia called the Loaded Mule. And she did a great job. She kind of had that like Sarnia corridor that she serviced, which was an area that we didn't really have a lot of presence in. And then again, I got wind that she was kind of interested in maybe getting out. She was doing it on weekends and stuff. So I made her an offer and we scooped that up. And then there was only one player left in London that was a true kind of mobile bar player with a rig. Was Tap Truck. So Tap Truck is actually now my business partner, Conrad Bedard.
Oh, wow.
So Conrad and I said, listen, we're number 1 and 2 in the industry right now in Southwestern Ontario. Let's just become a superpower. All right. So then
who is number 1 and who is number 2? And do you guys agree?
so it's a great question, actually.
Yeah.
It's a great, and I'll answer it.
Yeah.
So we had higher ROI, higher margin on our jobs because
high end. You focused on niche of the high end shit.
And he focused on mid to low tier.
Oh.
So he was more of a volume play.
Yeah.
Right. So whereas I was okay only having 2-3 bookings in a month because they were higher margin.
But he needed more based on nature.
And like his was like, it was only tap systems. So it was like churn and burn, right? Like, so it's like 2 different demographics.
So you guys complemented each other really in that sense. Now you don't have to say no to the people who heard about you, who aren't looking for the high end, who need something more mid ground.
Well, it helped the business. And again, when I go down to what's the best thing for the business, it helped his business or that business in a way that once that rig became part of our fleet, well, now the margins went up because now we're adhering to a higher framework, right? Because people are doing business with B&B, which is kind of that more elevated business. So the margins went up from that perspective. And then honestly, when we came together with that business, it was less about the rigs because I already had 2 horse trailers. I already had a tap truck of my own that we had been building out for a couple of years. I didn't really need the rig. What I needed was Conrad.
More of a feet on the street.
He is a ops guy through and through. He is also just tough as nails, hard worker. Like, what you would want in a business partner in terms of work ethic, knowledge, and complementing you as a number 2. He's the Batman to my Batman.
Nice.
Right? So he's not a Robin. We're like equals in terms of like what we bring to the table. Yeah. And we're not afraid to challenge each other. Right. Like we have disagreements almost every day. Right. About like, oh man, I don't think that's the way we should do this or whatever. Right. And what's nice about it is at the end of those days, we just know that we're having those conversations for the right reasons. It's about the business. We're not always going to agree on everything. Right.
And just to be clear, horse trailers, for our listeners, someone heard horse trailer.
Yeah.
You're turning that into this bar.
Correct.
This mobile bar.
Yeah. You're not in the equestrian business all of a sudden.
No.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're adding a concession door to it. It flips up, and then what you see in the horse trailer is a full bar setup.
Nice.
Right? So some of them have like a tap system. All of our rigs have like a bunch of fridges in them. One of the things that my competitors were doing that I don't do, they were just kind of they would build these bars out and then they would just rent them to the client. So they drop them off at the client's farm style wedding, and then they'd leave and they'd let them figure out the bartending and all that kind of stuff. Oh. So it wasn't full service, right? Whereas the big difference with us is we don't do that. It's like our number 1 asset. Why would I leave it? The risk is higher. And then when we did do those kind of things, invariably what would happen is you drop it off and you get a call 2 hours later. Oh, I can't get the tap system to work, or like, this light's not coming on or whatever. So we're like, you know what, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. If you want to book us, we need to have our staff there. Right.
And then you control that experience too, right? And I think that's based on what we've been talking about is a big part of your vision, right? Is provide and control that experience.
We've talked about a bunch of things here. We're talking about ego, parking the ego, but one thing that we're touching on here is the power of collaboration, right? And it's great that you guys were able to collaborate, park the egos. But again, if you can't park that ego, you may not ever explore or find that opportunity to collaborate, right? This was a great win-win for you guys.
For sure. Yeah.
But if you were posturing, who's number one, you never would have, seen that opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. And, I think, and a lot of business owners get trapped in this mindset of, especially once you've incorporated and you have shares and stuff and letting people have a piece of that pie. especially if you're bootstrapping it. Do I need to explain bootstrapping to your listeners?
Explain bootstrapping, because we've talked about it, but there may be listeners that they don't know what that means. Okay. What is bootstrapping?
So basically, in very simple terms, bootstrapping is when you're a business owner and you're funding the whole thing yourself. So you don't have any capital investment from like an external investor.
Just sweat equity, grinding it out.
And then like it's your money that's funding the venture, right? Yeah. So especially for companies that are bootstrapping from the get-go, it's really difficult to kind of give a piece of that business because you're so emotionally invested to your business. So I think that comes into play sometimes with, hey, I found this great collaborator and now I need to give up 25% of this thing that I built. And there's a lot of risk, right? But in order to succeed as a business owner, collaboration, when it's that deep, because there's one thing to collaborate and be like, hey, we're going to do a project together. It's another thing to collaborate in that, hey, we're going into business together.
And now we're going to give you some skin in the game.
And now we're going to give you some skin in the game. And like, that's the best collaboration. So I would say, you know, the way that we've grown so exponentially and so quickly is that like we give people skin in the game, right? We're like, hey, we really believe in you. So much so that we're going to talk about how we can make a deal work where, you know, I kind of have a piece of what you're doing, you have a piece of what I'm doing.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
And now, but it's like getting married.
Yeah.
It really is, right? Because now you are basically agreeing that, hey, even if we have differences, we got to fucking work it out because we are in bed together. And it forces you to not just turn away when things go, you know, south or like when like things are like difficult. It forces you to come back to the table and be like, okay, we did this. Like now we got to figure it out and we got to take it to the next level. Right. So that's like the purest form of collaboration. Yeah. And I'm not saying that you have to do it that way. But even just recognizing that like, hey, I would rather take the risk of getting involved in a project with someone and getting burned, because the upside of that risk is so much better, right? So yes, that's a reality that could exist in anything, especially things like events, right? But the upside of that risk is now I've got either a friend for life, a collaborator for life, and potentially someone that I might even go in business with that's going to take my businesses to the next level.
Awesome.
So, and then the other side of that is like, and I can appreciate the reluctance to give up points, right? And you watch Shark Tank and you get these entrepreneurs who, you know, have poured their life into this, invested tons of money, and you get one of those sharks who's got a direct network into a distribution channel that's going to take the company and 10x it in 2 years. And they're like, no, I need more. And it's like, they don't want to give up the 5 points or whatever it is, right? It's like 25% of nothing is still nothing, right? Like, you've got this, like, reluctance to hold, you got to hold on to the points, and you've got a perfect opportunity to get somebody into the business who's capable and competent. And actually, like you said, the upside of what that collaboration and partnership looks like. And then you miss it because you're holding on to the 25 points of a dream.
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's an important, I'm sure most of your listeners have watched Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or whatever. When they throw those numbers up on the screen, like, oh, it was asking for $100,000 for 25% or whatever, right? It's never about the money. It's always about the shark or the dragon, right?
That's why you're there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and sometimes you're like, holy fuck, they're giving up 25% of their business for like $100,000. Like that's not a really big investment, right? And then you're giving up a quarter of your business. It's like, yeah, but who are you giving it up to? You're not just giving it up to Joe Schmo on the street that's going to give you $100,000. You're giving it up to this guy like Kevin O'Leary or someone that's, you know,
Mark Cuban,
like connected.
Or someone that's
they've
connected.
got resources.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So
that's good.
And you can,
good point.
What I would say is replicate that locally too, right? Like when you're looking to grow your business, don't just give away points to the first person that throws money at you, right? Unless that's what you want. If you just want a venture capitalist and you just want like a silent investor, which some people want. They don't want to get embedded with people. They just want the money and they're happy giving away some of their business for it. There's a time and a place for that. But be strategic, right? Like if you have a gap in your business that you know exists, and you got to have that self-realization to know that, right? Then try to fill that gap and get investment at the same time.
I think that's a super awesome point.
Yeah, and if you've got a cat in the picture whose competencies and skill set and superpowers fill the gap, and you know, again, now if you can get some capital to that person to invest into the business to give up some points, great. But sometimes that's not always the case. And Ryan, it's funny, and before I forget, the boys will give me shit. we've got some younger listeners. They, some 16U junior knights, white boys have been listening to the pod, and they all want to get on the pod. I'm like, boys, like start a business and we'll talk. But I told them if they got a big dub last week that we give them a shout out. So there you go.
Shout
boys.
out. Yeah.
Shout
to
out to
the junior knights white.
There
that's
you go,
awesome.
fellas.
There you go. Right on. So a few more things here, Joel, before we close out, I kind of wanted to touch on. One would be the thing of vertical integration that I know we talked about a little bit, but really want to kind of get this on the episode because there's a lot of value for what you bring to our listeners and your experience and kind of your, we talked about your superpowers. Can you talk about vertical integration, what that is, how that's relevant to business and that sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a lot of businesses probably are working towards vertical integration and don't even know that it's called that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But essentially in very simple terms is you're looking at your supply chain and you're trying to find ways for your business, your core business, to benefit from that supply chain. So, we'll use the mobile bar space as an example, right? So as a mobile bar, who are you having to deal with? Well, you're having to buy alcohol, you're having to buy garnishes, you're having to buy, syrup, you're having to sometimes deal with distributors, event companies, things like that, right? So you would look at, hey, as a business, what's everything that we're paying for to go to market, right? Marketing agencies, things like that, right? Yeah. And then you say, okay, how can I make that a piece of my business so that every transaction that happens, whether it's with my core event or outside, I'm kind of getting a piece of the pie, right? So as a mobile bar business, and this is kind of how we got involved with Forest, is, we had clients asking for local product. I had actually just run into one of the owners, Colin, at a beer festival the week I incorporated, and I was just talking to him, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm starting this mobile bar thing, and like one of my ideas is to actually have a business to business service where like if you're like a smaller brewery, you can rent one of my kegerators, and it's win-win because your guests are getting a better experience. You're getting beer on draft versus just like out of a can, right? So." So he's like, yeah, I love that. That's a cool idea. And I said, but I'm like, I've never even fucking tapped a keg. So I'm like, I'm getting my kegerator next week. I'm like, if I run into any issues, like, do you mind like giving me a hand? And he's like, yeah, for sure. And I thought for sure this guy's not going to answer his phone. Yeah. But yeah, and sure enough, I get my kegerator. And
what do I do now?
And I'm like, yep, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? So so I call Colin, and bless his heart, he shows up and he's super cool dude and helps me set it all up and stuff. And then kind of the rest is history in that we started working together. So like wherever possible, I was pumping Forest, right? Because it's a great beer, a great cause, give back 4% to the forest city in terms of reforestation efforts. Nice. So I was just like, I just love everything they stood for. And there was a lot of alignment with our brand. So we worked together for like, a year or two, and there was so many synergies there that we said, hey, let's maybe combine forces here. So that's kind of what we did. So we're now kind of the event arm of the brewery. Nice. And then so it's a perfect example of vertical integration, right? Because we were having to buy beer anyways. Yeah. So I might as well, the beer I'm selling to my clients, I might as well profit off of that as well. Yeah. Right. So that was kind of one piece. And then, you would go down that vertical integration chain, right? So, eventually I'd like to have like an event space of our own, right? Because event space is kind of something that we hunt down for clients or we collaborate with others, but creating that as part of your ecosystem, or having garnishes, having a garnish company, so that no matter where that's making money, I got to use it anyways. Yeah. So I'm going to make money off of it. So
smart.
Yeah. And you can do that in any business, right? Yeah. Even if it's a service-based business, right? You can do that. And it really starts with building relationships with people that maybe have a synergy with you, right?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's it's something that probably a lot of businesses or business owners, myself included, just don't really think about as much as we should. How do I integrate these services or these products more into my business?
It maybe enhance your offering. Expanding your services, but also in the process of that, it's not like you're marking up the beer more to your clients. It's now you're probably getting a bit of better rate.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then there's that little extra piece of profit.
Yeah.
And if you do that enough times, next thing you know, the balance sheet's
Well, and I'm
looking a little
thinking
better.
like I own one of my businesses, I own a sports league. And our members and our athletes, families they're buying gear from somewhere else. And I know my partners and I, we've talked about, well, why don't we just sell the gear internally, right? So this is exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
The vertical integration. So yeah, it's something I think that, a lot of businesses need to think about.
And I think, entrepreneurs, especially like serial entrepreneurs like us, like we get bored quickly. So we're always like looking for like the new thing to do and like the new venture. Like,
my wife calls that ADHD.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So like it's,
Let alone it's your superpower, one of your superpowers, right?
so it's like, oh, let's fucking do a festival now.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like we're not busy enough, right? So
That's great, man.
yes. So, but what I was gonna say, kind of tied to that,
Mm-hmm.
is if you know you've got that anyways, where you're gonna be wanting to like venture off and do these other kind of like side projects and things, at least make sure they're related to each other.
Yeah.
So that one is a feeder system for the other or whatever, right? So and this wasn't necessarily the intention, but with like Fail Fast and especially the podcast, almost everybody that we've brought onto the podcast, I've done some kind of business with, after the podcast.
Yeah.
Right? So, either they've recommended me or like we've actually collaborated on a project or something. So, think about, hey, I'm doing this other passion project over here. How does it connect? Because if it's fully disconnected, now you're just spreading your energy too thin.
Yeah.
And that's no good for your business, right?
Yeah.
So it always goes back to the question, is this good for the business?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think it's the main like question that every business owner needs to ask themselves when they're doing something is this a net benefit for the business or is it a net benefit for me? Right? And if it's just for you, maybe not the right lens. Right. It's got to be the best decision for the business.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. Well, when I had this idea for this podcast, my business owner, Mike, he's introverted computer guy, wouldn't be caught dead on a podcast. And I'm telling him about this. He's like, fuck, I don't know, man, but I trust you, do your thing. He had no idea. And now he's seeing the benefit of, oh yeah, we're a marketing company. Yeah. Podcast, creating content. Sure. Like it makes sense. Right. But, it was kind of interesting kind of going down this journey myself with this as well, or ourselves, I guess.
Well, and everybody that sits here is a potential client.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're
sometimes.
not, and you're not selling them.
No.
Right. What you're doing is you're building a relationship. You're getting to know them better.
Yeah.
They're getting to know you better. And if they don't have a marketing agency, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that Ryan guy was cool.
Should probably have a chat.
Yeah. So,
man, this was great.
Yeah. I know you got to finish up, but, Joel, thanks, man.
Where can folks check you out? How do they get involved? How do they book you for an event? What's the deal?
Just go on Instagram. This guy's everywhere. But no, seriously, sorry about that.
Yeah, Instagram is our, I would say, the best platform to find us and like, DM us or whatever. So Bill_A_Bière. I'm sure you guys will put it on the screen. Or something.
We will.
So that's our main kind of page.
Which is Bubbles and Beers.
That's what it means in French. Yeah, Bubbles and Beers.
Yeah, nice. That's my. Hey, I got it. I still got the
you're
French.
Not fake French.
I'm not fake French anymore. Yeah, and then you guys have events going on constantly. Is that Fail Fast constantly going and some of these other things?
Yeah, so we just actually announced HRZN FEST Part 2.
You have?
Yeah, so that's
nice.
That's
okay.
happening.
We'll have to shout out to that.
Yeah, so that's happening August 7th and 8th, and the theme this year is Tulum.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
I think I might have seen that.
Yeah. So
okay,
it's going to be, last year was Santorini, everybody wore white. So this year we're doing a little bit of a different vibe. Every year that we do is going to highlight a different part of the world.
Love it.
All right. So
that's
it's
awesome.
going to be immersive. So Tulum is this year. So we just kind of put out a teaser poster for that.
Nice.
And another cool thing that we're doing right now, and again, just this week we've kind of announced it, is we're doing, this is a collaboration between B&B and Forest. We're doing a pop-up bar at King's University.
Oh, nice.
So I'm a King's alum, and I hated the fact that they never had a bar.
Yeah.
So we pitched them on doing a bar on site. So from January until March, we're doing a pilot pop-up bar at King's.
Very cool. That's good. And then shout out to Forest Brewery.
Yes.
As well. My buddy there, Miles, who I'm in a networking group with. We'll probably have to have him on the pod as well. But thanks. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate it. You're a wealth of knowledge, man. I know our listeners got a ton of value out of that.
Absolutely.
Hey, Scotty?
Yeah, man, that was
good.
great.
So,
Thanks,
we'll leave
Joel.
it there, but thanks, Joel. Appreciate you coming on, and continued success. Maybe our wives will give us a pass to go to one of these events. Hey, Scotty? What do you think?
See.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, man.
All
All
right.
a
right,
wrap.
take care.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.